right. In this video, we are going to solve rational exponent equations. These are equations where we have something being raised to a power that is a fraction. The basic strategy for dealing with that situation is to raise both sides of the equation to the reciprocal of that power. Let's take a look at an example. We have -3 plus parentheses 8 minus 2x raised to the 5/4 power equals 29. Now, before we apply the strategy of raising both sides to the reciprocal power, we need to get rid of this -3. If we try to do it now, the -3 gets in the way because we'd have to raise the entire left-hand side to the reciprocal power, and it's not going to cancel out the exponent like we want because the -3 is going to stop us from doing that. So let's go ahead and get rid of the -3 by adding 3 to both sides of the equation. And we will end up with 8 minus 2x raised to the 5/4 power equals 32. All right. So now we will use our strategy, raise both sides to the reciprocal power. The reciprocal of 5/4 is 4/5. So we're going to raise the entire left-hand side to the 4/5 power, and we're going to raise the entire right-hand side to the 4/5 power. Okay. On the left-hand side, when you have one exponent being raised to another power, I guess the exponent's not being raised to that power, but when you have one base being raised to two different powers, what you do with those exponents is you multiply them together. And when you multiply a fraction by its reciprocal, everything cancels out. Right? So the 4 is going to cancel out, the 5s are going to cancel out, and so since everything gets canceled out, we have a 1 left over. And since it's just a 1 as an exponent, we don't need to write it. And so we just get 8 minus 2x remaining. And we don't even need the parentheses anymore because there's no exponent for us to write since it's just a 1. On the right-hand side, we have 32 to the 4/5 power. So we want to apply that exponent to this number. You could use a calculator to get this answer. I think it comes out pretty nice, so a calculator would be pretty effective here. But we could also do this by hand without a calculator if you understand what's going on with this exponent. So the top number is a number that we're raising how do I want to say this? The top number, the numerator, is a power that we're applying to the 32. So we are going to raise this to the 4th power. But before we do that, we're going to consider the denominator first. The denominator is a root that we're taking of the right-hand side. And so the denominator being a 5 means we're taking a 5th root. And you can apply these in whichever order you want. So we could raise this to the 4th power first and then take the 5th root, but that's asking for a lot of trouble because 32 to the 4th power is going to be this huge number. It'll be easier if we apply the 5th root first. So I'm going to take the 5th root of 32, apply that first, and then raise that result to the 4th power. So that's how the exponent gets applied to the 32. The 5th root of 32, you might recall from a previous math class, is 2. Right? It's what number to the 5th power equals 32. Right? That's what it's asking for. What number to the 5th power equals 32? The answer is 2. Right? And so that is going to get raised to the 4th power. Let's just copy this down. All right, and so 2 to the 4th power is going to be 16. And now we get this ordinary, kind of boring looking equation. We just need to solve it for x. It's a linear equation. So let's solve this for x. We'll subtract 8 from both sides. We get -2x is equal to 8. And then we'll divide by -2. And we get x is equal to -4. And that would be the solution. Okay, let's try another problem. Here we have 2 parentheses x minus 3 raised to the 2/3 power equals 8. We want to do the same thing here. We don't want to apply the reciprocal power until we have that parentheses or that thing being raised to that power isolated. And this isn't quite isolated because we have the 2 being multiplied in front of it. So let's get rid of that 2 first, and then we'll do the reciprocal power. To cancel out this 2, since it's being multiplied to the parentheses, we will divide by it. Right, so we'll divide by 2 on both sides, and we get x minus 3 raised to the 2/3 power equals 4. Now we will apply the reciprocal power to both sides. The reciprocal of 2/3 is going to be 3/2. So we raise the left-hand side, the entire left-hand side, to the 3/2 power. We raise the right-hand side to the 3/2 power. Just like in the previous problem, on the left-hand side, what's going to happen is when you have one power being raised to another power, you multiply those powers together. So we're going to multiply these together, and what's going to happen is everything cancels out. Right? So the 3's are going to cancel out because you have one on top, one on the bottom, and the 2's are going to cancel out. So we end up getting a 1 left over. X minus 3 to the first power is just x minus 3. So we can drop the parentheses, drop the exponent since it's just a 1. On the right-hand side, we have 4 to the 3/2 power. So again, the way this is interpreted is we are raising the right-hand side to the 3rd power. That's what the numerator tells me. Or we're cubing it, if you want to say it like that. The denominator being a 2 means we are going to take the square root. Right? It's a second root or a square root of the right-hand side. We can apply these in either order we want. So I'm going to choose to apply the square root first because I think it'll be easier. Sorry, I was writing the answer. Got ahead of myself there a little bit. Square root of 4. And then I'll raise it to the 3rd power. All right? So square root of 4, I think you guys probably know that. It's 2. And then 2 to the 3rd power is going to be 8. I'm going to stop there because we don't want to go any further without making a correction. What you have to realize just happened, and this is why it's important that you don't just use your calculator, but that you actually understand what this exponent means. We just took the square root of both sides of this equation, right? This denominator of 2 means we took the square root of the left-hand side and the square root of the right-hand side. Even though we did it in this kind of alternate form, it was still a square root. And just like any other time you take the square root of both sides, you have to apply a plus or minus to the right-hand side of the equation before you go any further. So that's something that needs to be placed here, and that's going to copy itself down to the result that I just got here. So it really should be plus or minus 8. Now we can solve for x by adding 3 to both sides, and what I'll do is I'll put the plus 3 in front of the plus or minus, and so we end up with this result, x equals 3 plus or minus 8. Unfortunately, we can't leave our answer in that form because it can be simplified if we look at the two answers separately. So anytime you have a plus or minus that can be simplified by separating them out, you need to go ahead and do that. So we'll look at the plus case and the minus case separately, and we'll simplify in both cases. So we get 3 plus 8, which is 11, 3 minus 8, which is -5. And those will be my two solutions there.